Rejection of Flavio Bolsonaro soars and reaches 60%, says Atlas. A new survey also shows that Bolsonaro aligned politicians are the most rejected by the population. People are waking up, right? Look, it's dropping sharply among women, the latest survey that came out, Flavio, and it's also dropping among evangelicals. People are getting tired of being embarrassed, right? The Bolsonarist evangelicals are already hiding. Why? They're tired of being embarrassed. How are they going to say it's God, fatherland, family, and Jesus if the guy is a crook, a criminal, a bum, a liar, a first class scammer? There's no way. One thing just doesn't match the other, you know? So the evangelicals are no longer willing to be humiliated because it's just too much shame. Oh my God. Even Silas is already backing out. He's already left, guys, because he's just too embarrassed. What will he tell his church members? It's just like in Goiânia, Goiás. Flavio was here this week. Then he went to the evangelical church, prayer, Jesus, and all that, and so on. Then he left the evangelical church and went to the procession to revere the divine eternal Father. Catholic procession. Then the pastors here from the evangelical churches don't know what he tells the congregation. I'm not debating who's right or wrong about religion. Like I said, everyone should have their own beliefs and do what they want. That's totally fine. I'm not saying Catholics are right or evangelicals are right. That's not the point. The point is the hypocrisy, the slyness, and the shamelessness of using other people's faith to try to manipulate them. Now, the pastors here in Goiânia don't know what to say to the faithful. Oh my God. Oh, in a letter to the United States, Flavio links Master to Lula and omits the case of Bolsonaro's movie, the movie Pangaré. And Donald Tranquera would have to be really dumb to believe Flavio too, right, guys? Or maybe interested. Because sometimes there are people who aren't dumb. Poor donkey. There are people who aren't idiots. Some people act like idiots on purpose because she doesn't want to show that she knows everything because she has some interest in the story. Got it? Donald Tranquera, to believe Flavio, he has to be an idiot or interested, right? And he has an interest invading Brazil, stealing the Amazon, stealing the oil, stealing our rare earths, our critical minerals. He has a lot of interests, just like he's doing over there in Venezuela. Is he helping Venezuela now? Because he's stealing from Venezuela. Venezuela is a catastrophe over there. My solidarity is with all the Venezuelan people. It's like an earthquake catastrophe that happened there. Is Donald Tranquera helping them? Is he just there to steal? He wants to steal, and he is stealing. Thousands of barrels of oil and Venezuela's gold are being stolen day and night by Donald Trump's government. That's what he wants here, too. That's why he does it and takes advantage of this alliance with Flavio Bolsonaro. But he knows they're crooks, just as crooked as Donald Trump himself and all that. But what does he believe in that for? To have a group here that kisses up to him, he doesn't believe it. And who will defend him here within the national territory? The idiots from the Bolsonarist group, especially Flavio Bolsonaro, who is doing everything he can to get Donald Trump to interfere in the electoral process here in Brazil. Everything that Flavio is doing is to try to convince the United States to send their secret CIA agents to come to Brazil and try to sabotage the electoral process. To interfere in the elections to see if Flavio can win somehow. Because the normal way, Flavio is going to lose everything, even his way home. And I'm telling you, I've been saying this from the beginning. Lula wins in the first round. That's why Flavio is so desperate. And he sent this letter here talking about Volcaro's fraud. But saying that Lula is the one involved, he didn't mention the movie, that he received more than 60 million from Volcaro. And until now, he hasn't explained what he was charging for. Millions of reais from Daniel Volcaro, even though he said he didn't even know Daniel Volcaro, and the truth came out. And that's just the beginning. He had meetings with Daniel Volcaro, Flavio. This will come to light. Just wait. I keep watching this kind of shameless sleaze. In the United States, wow. In the United States, Flavio promises to isolate PICs and supports credit cards. From the United States, in another gesture of submission, the senator sends a document to the United States with promises ranging from restrictions on PICs to benefits for credit card companies. Does something like this make any sense? This is desperation. Flavio is desperate. He's plummeting in the polls. And I tell you, in a normal Brazilian election, Flavio loses and Lula wins in the first round. And he's doing all this to see whether the United States will intervene here in Brazil for Flavio. Shall we watch the video? Shall we watch the video now? Have you liked the live stream yet? You haven't? Why not? What did I do to you? You claim not to like me, but you're still watching me. Man, you like to suffer, don't you? Because no one is forced to watch me. Now, if you do like it, help me out for God's sake. Like, share, and comment. Type this: Bolsa Master, Flavio Rachadinha, Lula in the first round. Help me out for God's sake. Look, man.
We filed a report with the federal police to investigate the role of BRB, the public bank, in the purchase of Flavio Bolsonaro's private mansion. And here, the campaign coordinator also bought a mansion that today is the headquarters of Flavio Bolsonaro's campaign. I want to remind you, Paulo Henrique Costa was the president of BRB. He is in jail. Connection, he was summoned with the whole scandal of the master case. Look, BRB couldn't give a loan of 10.5 million reais to Flavio's campaign coordinator. He has to have a salary of 429,000 reais. It was the same thing. In that property worth 6 million, which also came from a BRB loan, which Flavio paid off. Money, nobody knows where it came from. 27 years earlier, look, there's a lot of shady stuff going on there. We do suspect, yes, the involvement of Volcano in this operation with Paulo Henrique Costa, with BRB. That was already the way Flavio's campaign was financed. Bolsonaro. Now, guys, Flavio Bolsonaro's obsession is really impressive. Commissions. I want you to see here what happened in his fight with the soccer player Richarlison regarding the island in Angra do Sul.
In 2020, Flavio was enchanted by a property worth 10 million reais on the paradisiacal Ilha Comprida in Angra dos Reis. The problem is that the property, with 11 suites, its own waterfall, and even a helipad, already had an owner. It belonged to the soccer player Richarlison, who had bought the house just a few months earlier. But Flavio's friend, the lawyer Willer Thomas, went to court and pulled a scam. He took over the house overnight, evicting Richarlison's manager's pregnant wife who was living there. The story turned into a real mess in court, with accusations of property invasion, suspicions of land grabbing, and disputes over who really had the right to the mansion.
Look, we went to the federal police when
I'll tell you, it's so much that it's even complicated, right, guys? There are two mansions that Lindenberg has now filed a criminal complaint about in the Supreme Federal Court. One mansion was bought by a former aide of Bolsonaro, who is now one of those responsible for Flavio Bolsonaro's campaign. The guy didn't have the financial means to buy a mansion. It's a mansion worth almost 15 million reais. He bought a mansion over there in Lago Sul. That mansion is now used as like the campaign headquarters for Flavio Bolsonaro's pre-campaign. The monthly payment for that house is 120. It's 128,000 reais. This guy doesn't have the money to pay for that. What's the suspicion that he's a straw buyer? That this house was bought through the scheme, most likely by Daniel Vorcaro, and he's a front man for Flavio Bolsonaro. So much so that the house is used by Flavio Bolsonaro as his pre-campaign committee headquarters, there in Lago Sul, in Brasília. For those who know Brasília, Lago Sul is where the most expensive and beautiful mansions in Brasília are. There's Lago Norte, the north, and the south. The south has the priciest ones. So what happened then? Because paying 14 million in cash, that's a lot, right? You have to show where it came from. He got the loan. Where? Guess where? Together with Paulo Henrique. Paulo Henrique is the president of BRB who is under arrest, just like Daniel Vorcaro, just like Fabiano Zettel. He is involved in Daniel Vorcaro's mafia, the former president of the bank. BRB is a public bank. It's a kind of federal savings bank. But within the environment of the federal district's federative entity, Caixa Econômica Federal is. In relation to the union, BRB is the public bank. In relation to the federal district, who was the governor? Ibanez Rocha, another Bolsonaro supporter. And this president of BRB, Paulo Henrique, a trusted confidant of Bolsonaro's supporter Ibanez Rocha, gave a loan to Bolsonaro's former aide. Today, one of those responsible for Flavio Bolsonaro's pre-campaign and this house that was bought is being used by Flavio Bolsonaro as the condominium, electoral committee. Paulo Henrique, who approved the loan, is already in custody. That's why Lindenberg requested an investigation into this now. But it's not just this mansion. There's another mansion over in Angra dos Reis where the player, I'm not sure how to say his name, Richarlison, right? Where the player Richarlison bought the mansion. And suddenly a lawyer showed up together with Flavio Bolsonaro and managed to take Richarlison's mansion. Richarlison. And this case is in court. There are mansions everywhere, and wherever there's a mansion, Flavio is there too. Just to point out, the mansion where Flavio Bolsonaro lives today costs about 15 million reais. And he managed to pay for it with a loan from which bank? BRB. You can look into it, guys. There's no way it's scheme after scheme. By all indications, they're frontmen who take ownership for a bigger criminal scheme. It's just like Karina Gama, producer at Dark Horse, who made the movie, producer at Go Up. To me, she's a front woman used by the Bolsonaro family there in this whole movie situation. Shall we check it out here? Even the right-wing crowd is bashing Flavio for betraying the country. Pay attention here.
Regarding the other front of crisis in Flavio Bolsonaro's campaign, right? All the impasse he has right now with Michelle Bolsonaro. Yesterday, there was an event with female leaders from the PL, and it was an event where Flavio Bolsonaro, expected in some way to make peace with Michelle. That didn't happen. He still had to keep responding to that unfortunate statement from Paulo Figueiredo's ally.
Yeah, and he took a long time to respond. It took him more than 48 hours. When he responded, he criticized a little, but then softened it right after, because he said that Paulo Figueiredo is very important for defending the family agenda in the United States. So he's almost embarrassed to say that he rejects that statement. And he ended up calling Michelle uninformed when commenting on her video. So he picked another fight with her. Damaris Alves and Teresina A, who are the two main female leaders of the right in Congress, didn't attend because they felt offended, both by Michelle and by those statements. And you can see how hard it is for him to speak to a female audience, right? And that's another one of those things that the polls point out very clearly when you see that at a recent event. When trying to praise Senator Teresa Cristina, who is his colleague in the Senate and is the same age as his father, he called her granny. And that wasn't even trendy with the goalkeeper from Cape Verde. He said, "I affectionately call her granny because she reminds me a lot of my grandmother." Senator Flavio Bolsonaro looks like a little boy there when he does that Poto doll dance, but he's a 45-year-old man, a senator of the Republic, just like her. She is 72 years old, so she is 27 years older than him. She could never be his grandmother. She is the same age as his father, but he sees her a female leader, a great leader in agribusiness, the greatest female leader in Brazilian agribusiness, as a little grandma. So this condescending and rather pejorative tone towards women always shows through even when they tried to be affectionate towards women. So it backfired, Cassia.
Wait, regarding the other front of the crisis, yes?
So there's also this situation with Michelle, right? Flavio still has no idea what this is going to cause for his campaign. And Paulo Figueiredo revealed that Flavio's apology was arranged. It was all arranged? He didn't regret it. It wasn't like that. It was arranged because the results of the Atlas Intel poll came out and then he panicked. And Paulo Figueiredo said that his apology was arranged. It's because he's desperate, because he lost support among women and among evangelicals, and he doesn't know where to turn. Congressman Lindenberg also talked about the act of betraying the country regarding this new letter that Flavio sent to the United States to Donald Tranquera, right? He's desperate. He's desperate for Donald Trump to interfere here in the elections. Otherwise, he'll lose in the first round.
This is unacceptable, folks. Another betrayal by Flavio Bolsonaro to our country. He just sent a letter to the U.S. Trade Office asking to postpone the tariff increase until after the elections. This guy is crazy, irresponsible, a traitor to the country. We will not accept a big tariff increase, not before or after the elections. What a scoundrel. On top of everything, he's an idiot. He's a limited figure, incapable of being a presidential candidate. He thinks we don't know that people are fools. All of this we're facing started with them, Flavio and Eduardo's campaign, to interfere in the trial of Jair Bolsonaro and the coup supporting generals. But there's also something very serious. He calls for the end of Mercosur. Guys, we're talking about Latin American integration. Brazil is the leading member of Mercosur. It's the biggest country in Mercosur. They want Brazil to become a North American colony. They present themselves that way, giving away wealth, land, rare earths. Look, let's intensify the campaign for our picks, and let's denounce this traitor to the nation. He doesn't wear or defend the green and yellow colors. They embrace the American flag. But Brazil belongs to Brazilians. Lula made a very tough tweet, defending national sovereignty and responding to this traitor.
My dear, put it there. Pix is ours. In the comments, Pix is ours. Brazil belongs to Brazilians. Flavio Bolsonaro is a traitor to the country. You can put it. Let's take a look at this Twitter now, right? This post from President Lula. Let's take a look at this post from President Lula here. Exactly talking about this betrayal of the country by the Bolsonaro supporters. I'll put it here. I'll read it for you. And this, guys, is a matter of sovereignty. This isn't about right or left. It's a matter of sovereignty. Flavio Bolsonaro, I'll say it again, he's desperate. And he's saying, you know, in these official letters, these letters to Trump, exactly what Trump wants to hear. Do you understand? Exactly what Trump wants to hear. Everything that Trump would like to do with Brazil, Flavio is saying, confirming and supporting. Like a true traitor to the country, to see if Donald Trump interferes in the elections. That's what he wants. It's nothing else. Here, look. Lula speaks. It's unacceptable that the Bolsonaro family, with their subservience to foreign interests, wants to subject Brazil to the interests of the United States, as is clear in the document sent today by one of its members to the American government. Flavio was the one who sent it. We will always have a dialogue as equals with any nation in the world. Asking for the tariff against our country to be postponed until after the elections is yet another act of traitors to the nation. There has never been and there never is any justification for tariffs now or later. The most absurd thing is knowing that the origin of all this was motivated by the Bolsonaro family itself, who publicly supported the increase of tariffs against Brazilian products. To advocate for the end of Mercosur, the most important economic bloc in Latin America, which has just signed a historic agreement with the European Union. It's another attack on the interests of the Brazilian people. As if that weren't enough, they want to hand over PICs to foreign interests. They won't succeed. PICs is an achievement for Brazil, and we won't give it up. Our homeland is not for sale. Our sovereignty is non-negotiable. Brazil belongs to Brazilians. That's my president. And whatever depends on me, he wins in the first round. I look like this and think to myself, where did the right wing end up? The right wing can't put forward a candidate who is in fact a true Democrat, who isn't a coup supporter, who isn't a traitor to the country, didn't stand up. Yes. I always tell you guys, the far right is not the left's problem. The far right is a big problem for the right. That fed it, that covered it up, and that got involved with it. And maybe even the far right is the solution for the left. Leave your comment, like, comment, and share. Kisses. We're always in this together. Bye-bye. Thank you.